Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You're Julia.
I didn't take a little bit of this bit.
No problem at all.
Oh, shit, sorry. Hi,
It's
welcome,
totally fine. It's totally
welcome.
fine.
Do you want to wash hands or use
No, I'm good.
hand
Can we just put this
sanitizer?
down?
Yeah, by all means.
Wicked.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. As it turns out, so the one that popped up is, okay, so the photograph is, you're obviously using really nice lenses, really good camera as well. So everything is just deliciously colorful and rich and saturated and dynamic and all those words. It looks like, so there's a child sitting at a tractor.
That is my child.
Child.
That is my child. That is Alex. And Alex actually took that last photo.
Oh.
Yeah. So I set it up, and that was taken on my A9, which is my play camera, my personal camera. I found because I shoot so much, when I was taking out a Nikon to like an event or a friend's birthday, I'm like, I feel like I'm at work.
Right.
So I shouted myself an A9 a few years ago, and that's my hobby. That's my toy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful camera. And because it's so much lighter, Alex can use it.
Sure. So so she's seated at a tractor.
A tractor.
Which is slightly, it's red. The colors are red, black, gray. The tractor itself is painted a sort of nice, rich sort of tomato red. She's wearing a nice red and white striped t-shirt. Can't see her face, but her hands are on the wheel of the tractor. The grasses are relatively high, very nice, very clean. There are barrels in the background, which it could be at a winery.
It is at a winery. It's at a friend's winery in Victoria.
Ah, nice. She's a bit young to drink, don't you think?
And drive, apparently.
Yeah, that's true,
But maybe
yeah.
with the two combined, that could be the key.
It's fine. Yeah, Australia.
She's Australian. She's gonna be fine.
It's fine. Okay, so they have a winery.
So this was taken in January of 2020, which is the last time we got to go anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's called Banks Road Vineyard. What up, Avenel and Will? Go check it out. They do beautiful wines. And we were there at a family lunch. My former husband's family, we all got together and went down there, and it was just, you know, when you get those really special days, like the weather was beautiful. They've got these beautiful golden retriever dogs, and we're sort of sitting in the sun and walking through these amazing barrels. Like, I guess my aesthetic is I quite like a bit of like industrial grit. I like seeing how things are made. And I just really loved this photo of Alex, because I'm from a town of 300 people. So
Right.
that is more reminiscent of my childhood.
So when you grew up, small town, what was at that town? Like, were there farms?
Yeah, it's a farming community.
Okay.
It's like 10 kilometres out of a quote-unquote regional city. I shouldn't say that, sorry. It is a regional city. That was my hubris coming out. I'm sorry. Called Traralgon, and I went to school there. But my parents are still in the home that I came home from hospital when I was born.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's so lovely to go back. And I always wish there was a way to not just photograph scenes, but to photograph how it smells. You know, you wake up on a summer morning and you can smell like the eucalyptus oil in the air.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And, you know, just the smell of like freshly cut grass.
Yeah.
And hay, and Mum grows this amazing rose garden.
Wow. When you look at phones and technology is improving so much, right? But then one of the things about having these like higher end cameras is that the dynamic range, whatever you want to call it, like the color, the vividness of the color, if the exposure is right and everything, it's like it's hyper visual scene, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't really see it in this way.
It's too crisp. It's too precise.
But on the other hand, I keep using the word delicious, but it's just like it's like this thing where you're just like you could lose yourself just in the. One of the themes of the podcast is every moment is a gift, and if life really is a gift, how do we make every second count? And sometimes,
Amen, brother.
Yeah, and so for me, sometimes looking at things like this that are so perfect, it's like the scene of her just holding, who knows what she's thinking about. Like it's like visually perfection, whatever. It's it's just for some reason, for me at least, it totally it reduces me to mush. But so you say it anchored your childhood.
Yeah.
The fact that you're back in Australia. It's your daughter. Did you know it was going to be the last time you're going to be traveling in a while back then?
I had a feeling. So I think it was like the 23rd or 24th of January, and you're at Hong Kong International Airport having, like a drink in the lounge, and it was CNN, and the ticker's like running past, and it's like mystery Wuhan flu or cold or what have you. And I'm like, this doesn't look great. So Hong Kong Airport obviously had...
It's okay. We're in an industrial building.
So Hong Kong Airport still had all of the barriers up from the 2019 protests. So those massive like water-filled barriers. And then, of course, everybody's in masks, and like you're always cautious about when you speak about something that happened before a major event and go like, oh, you could feel it in the air. Right. But it was weird. Like people were in masks. It was like, I think, the Friday of Chinese New Year. And I ran into a good friend of mine, Norbaya, and she was flying to New York to meet her new baby niece.
Okay.
And we're looking at each other going like, Jesus Christ, this does not feel good. And then we got to Australia and, the schools shut down and, people were like buying masks and hand sanitizer and the toilet paper rush of early 2020. And people look at each other going like, this does not look good. Yeah, and at that time, it was a China-Hong Kong problem.
Yeah.
And I think, you don't want a pandemic like until you live in it, right? We made the decision to stay in Australia for a little bit longer. And Andrew, my ex-husband, and his family wanted to go to the Australian Open. I'm like, yeah, sure, go for it. Like, it's pearls before swine with me. Like, I'm not going to sit in the sun and pay $4 for a bottle of water. And then, I had work and I really wanted to come home being Hong Kong. And we had friends who stayed on in Australia. And then there was all the cruise ships that started coming into Sydney. Right. And then, Milan was an epicenter, and then New York was an epicenter. So we just thought like, it's time to hunker down.
Sure.
And, Hong Kong has been reasonably normal, quote unquote. Like, we've never had a proper lockdown.
But Hong Kong, of all the places in the world, it seems that, New Zealand, but I think Hong Kong has probably been one of the best places to be.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So you're saying she made this photograph or you made the photograph?
I took the photo.
Okay. So can you use this as a kind of a prompt for was it morning? Was it like, what were you thinking? Like, why was that an impulse to say, oh, wait a second, this is beautiful,
I wish I'd put more thought into it now.
Why?
I know. It's like when you take a photo, because I shoot so much, and I'm definitely overshoot, which is great fun when you come to editing. You're like, oh, I'm so glad I took 350 frames in that 2-hour session.
Wow.
Good for me.
Sure.
I think when you, the premise of the podcast was to send you images, and, when you've got so many images,
right,
and what speaks to you, and I was sort of looking through that gallery of those images that I took during that time. And I really loved, I love the composition. Like, sure. I love that sort of corrugated iron at the top.
Yeah.
And, she's got, when I lived in the Philippines, people would assume that I was her yaya because she was like blonde, blue-eyed.
Right.
I don't believe I am Asian, but a 23andMe will probably answer that question. And I'm small, like I'm only short, and I just always loved just seeing her like blonde hair in the wind. And it's just very it's very innocent, it's very childlike. And
so one of the things that's interesting to me is that when the people on the podcast, some are practicing photographers, some are painters, some are performance artists. But everybody's using photography differently, and it's more about, how are you using this as a mode to express yourself? And it's one of those things that despite yourself, you're on vacation, you have this moment with your daughter, so much of it could be placed for a magazine shoot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, like, even the way her hair is, the way it's kind of, can't really see her face and everything, but it's like a spectacularly beautiful photo.
Thank you very much.
You're very my compliments to the photographer, whoever she is.
Thank
Yeah, she's
you.
really good.
I've heard she's a bit of a bitch. I wouldn't worry about it.
Next photo, then. Fine, on that perfect tone.
Cool. So
Your segue was.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts. It's all via osmosis, right?
Nice. So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.